All right, welcome back everybody. So this video I intended to be really short, but as I dive deeper into it, I noticed that there's a lot more that meets the eye when it comes to creating a health bar. So on the screen, you'll see that I have different examples, and I will provide to you all source codes, links to downloads, and if I can even manage it, I'll even drop this file in a link as well so you can see it. So I have different ways of creating a health bar. Let's click the play button so you can see. If I press the E button, you'll see that the health bar does disappear and eventually it goes away. So I have a lot of things going on. So this one right here, I have changing. So let's focus on these two first, the Y scaling and X scaling. Let's look at those two. So as I press the button, you'll notice that they both shrink. This one shrinks to the left, this one shrinks down. And as these two shrink, their colors blend from green to like an orange to like a red, and then to a bright red, and then they disappear. So like what I have here is on this one, the only difference between these two is I changed the initial color. So if you double click, you'll see it's a white. If you double click, you'll notice that this one's green. There's the only difference between these two. So you'll notice that the initial color difference plays a role in your health bar. That's why I have these colored white, because if these are white, whatever I set my colors to in my code blends in with the initial color of your active object. And this is with the free version. If I wasn't using the free version, all I would have to do is I'd have to go over here to effect, and then I could change the effect. But because I'm using the free version, I can't use these things over here. So I have to understand that the initial color of the active object plays a role. So look, like this goes from green, and you can see the difference right over here. This is blending in with black, where this is blending in with white. And so this one, whereas more red, it still stays that darker color. So your initial color of your active object can play a difference. So when you're creating a health bar using these methods, you want to use a white color, so that way what you want actively shows through. And you also want to make sure that when you're creating an object, so for example, if I insert an object in here, and I want this to be a health bar, first thing I do is I change the width and height. So if I want it to be longer than shorter, like, I want my horizontal, I would do like 100 by 32. Or if I wanted it to be, the other way, I would do it this way, right? Now you can set whatever dimensions you want for your health bar. What's important here is and we're going to color it so that way we can see it, right? Just a different color. What's important is that you can use the correct hotspot. So when you create something, the hotspot's in the middle, right? And first it was 32 by 32. And that would make this hotspot right in the middle. But when I extend the length of this, either vertically or horizontally, the hotspot doesn't change. So this right here is your hotspot. And you can always put your mouse cursor over it. You want to make sure that if you're going to create a health bar, that your hotspot's wherever you want the base of the health bar to stay. So if I were to change this to here, that means the health bar would scale, if I would change it to here, the health bar would scale this way. If I would change it to here, the health bar scales this way, right? So I have to click apply. Now when this thing scales, it'll go down instead of the other way, which, let's look at the wrong hotspot example. Let's look at this one now. My hotspot for this one is right up here somewhere. And now when I lose health, it scales wrong. Like it scales and it gets closer to the hotspot, right? We don't want that. We want the hotspot to be at the bottom. So it's over here, it's over here, it's over here, it's over here, it's over here. Our hotspots are where we want the health bar to stay the same. So like this doesn't move, this doesn't move, this doesn't move. Well, in this case, the hotspot's where my mouse is. And that can affect your health bar. So make sure that when you're making your health bars, that you have the hotspot at the right spot. Now, I'll show you the code, but I have a few different ways that I've made a health bar. So once again, let's look at it again. I have a health bar that has blending from green to red, from green to red, from green to red, from green to red. So these are all basically the same with blending mode. Now I have a different health bar over here. Let's look at this one. This one is when it's above a certain number, it's green. Once it hits a particular number, it turns yellow. And then once it hits another number, it turns red. And then I have one more type of health bar, and you'll see this one uses an animation. It's different from all the rest. This one uses an animation. So as it takes health, it says, all right, as its health reaches a certain value, I want it to use a different frame in its animation. So there are different ways to create a health bar. I don't know which one is good for you. So let's look at some of my code and figure out how did I test this out. So the first thing I want to show you all is when I press the letter E, it allows me to test out the health bar. It takes away 10 health from each of these objects. So when I look at, let's say, Y scaling this object, I call that one the perfect vertical, right? If I go to alternate variables, I've added health and maximum health, and I've done that to each of these. That's perfect horizontal. This one is initial color difference, but you'll see that they all have health and max health, health and max health, health and max health. So something you want to do when creating health bars is insert your object, right? You want to make sure that you go to alternate variables, click new, double click, and type in health, and whatever else you want, by the way. If you want to do max health, if you want to do, I don't know what kind of health bar you want, right? So lowest health, I don't have that. You put whatever variables you want in, but make sure that you put those variables in there. That way you can reference them in code. And so what I've done is I use health and max health to scale it. When health over max health is at its at a value of 100 divided by 100 is 1. I want this thing to have a scaling of 1. And then if this goes to 90 divided by 100 is 0.9. It's now 90%. So it uses basically scaling percentages to create each of these health bars. Same with this one. This one doesn't now. This one's different. This one says when health is a certain number. So I don't even need max health on this one, actually. I could take max health off and it would operate. It should operate the same way. Exactly. See, this one doesn't relate to max health. This one just says, as this one's health reaches a certain value, use a different animation frame. The rest of them need that max health, though. So let's go ahead and let's look into the code. Don't be frightened. Don't be frightened. This is a lot. So let's break down the code. I have when I press the button E, it subtracts 10 health from all of them. So you'll see they're all the same. Subtract 10 health, subtract 10 health, subtract. The only one that's not is the one that uses an animation. So actually I should have changed that one from active 4 if I go back to my frame. All right, that's this guy right here. I should change this to, if I rename it, to use animation, right? That way when we go to our code editor, it makes more sense. Use animation, right? So this one only subtracts 10 health. So when I press a button, we're going to subtract health from all of it. Now, in your game, usually it's like if a collision occurs, subtract the health, right? That's usually what you want. But for me, I'm just testing out the health system. And so you'll see here, I've set the scale to it. So how did I do that? I right-clicked, and then I did scale, and I did set X scale or set Y scale. So I set the Y scale for the verticals and the X scale for the horizontals. So look at it. So this one is perfect vert. So you'll see Y scale. This one is wrong hotspot, still a Y scale. This is perfect horizontal, so now I set the X scale. So let's look at that code, right? It takes the health, divides it by the maximum health for that object. Now it times it by 1 here because that turns it into a floating number. I'm not sure why Fusion requires this, so let's look at what happens if I were to take away times 1 here, and we're on perfect horizontal. So let's go look at our perfect horizontal here, right, which is this one right here. And now if I press E, it disappears. So I am not entirely sure why that is like a function of this program. Where did I take it off? Right here. But And this might be something that's tripping you up, and this might be why you came here. How did he get it to work? Well, you have to have ×1 in order to get it to be a float. A float would be a type of variable, by the way. So this lets it be that. Okay, so we have to add in ×0.1 to everything, right? So if it's vertical, set it to Y scale. If it's horizontal, set it to X scale. Now, what I've done for all of these, except for the one that is GRY, which one's that? GRY is this guy right here. So GRY, which still has max health and red, regular health. Green, yellow, red. Green, yellow, red. That's where GRY stands for, right? So once again, what does this one do? Just to review with you, this one is where I want it to be green if it's between a couple values, yellow and red, depending upon the values that it's in. So when we look at the code, I have its health of that object over here. So everything else, actually, you know what? I don't even need this one, right? Oh, yeah, okay. So let's go back a little bit, right? So this one's pretty easy to look at. When its health is greater than or equal to 70, change its RGB coefficient to this. So let's look at this code. Right, so I set RGB coefficient. And how did I do that? So I did effect set RGB coefficient. That's how I do the red, yellow, and green. I right click, right? As long as its health is greater than 70, we're gonna right click, we're gonna do effect set RGB coefficient, and we're going to set RGB, or was it get? It was, yeah. So when we look at this code here, it's get. Let's copy that. Let's put it over here. So right click, effect, set the coefficient. Now the function we want to do is retrieve a value, right? So this is RGB. So if its health is greater than 70, I want it to be green. So this would be green right here, right? So if I go back and click play, it's green. Now I could change the effect. Let's edit it. If I say I wanted it to be blue, I want it to have 0 green. I want it to be blue, 255. It would be 100% blue at that point. And then you could blend colors at that point, right? Use whatever RGB value you want. But this is the code you want if you wanted to set it to a specific color at a specific moment in time. And that would just be set it. As you saw, right click, effect, set RGB coefficient. Now I've done the same thing for the other ones as well, but I changed those equations, and we'll look at those in a moment. Now, I have it as always here, set those colors for the rest of them. So set that color, set that color, set that color, set that color. The only one that's different is this one. I really should have put always down here, and I should have taken this and moved it down here and turned this off, because this one is using the animation sequence, whereas this one is mainly changing it from green to red. So what did I do? Right click, effect, set RGB coefficient. I did the exact same thing, but in this case, when I set the RGB coefficient, I used this equation. And what this does is it says at a maximum value, we're going to have health over max health should be equal to each other times 255, meaning its green value should be 255. This one says the same thing at this value, which is a value of 255. We subtract it from 255. So this gives you 0 at a max health. This gives you 255 at a max health. At a health of 0, this goes to 0, and this goes to 255. So this allows me to do like a slider based off of, you know, what my current health is. And this is just an equation that I pulled off of another video that somebody used to create like a slider from green to red. But you'll notice that with a slider, it's not like it changes colors to like a darkness, and it goes to like an orange and a red, and that's fine, right? If that's what you want, and you can go for it. So I'll leave I'll show you this. This is like the whole code right here, right? For these guys. I'll leave this up so that way if you want to hit pause, you can see the code there. You know, that's the set RGB coefficient 2, and then inside of that, if I were to do edit, right, this is the get RGB, which would show up here. So set RGB coefficient 2, which is right click, effect, set RGB coefficient 2, and then boom. Now make sure that you reference the name of your object, by the way. So this would be health of the wrong hotspot one, right? So that would be this guy over here. And they all have, you know, they all reference an object. That one's perfect. That one's wrong hotspot. That one's perfect vertical. That one's wrong hot. I think I have wrong hotspot in here twice. But that's okay. I probably have some naming issues going on. It doesn't matter. It works in the end. So let's look at the animation one, right? So let's go to our uses the animation. So let's pull up this guy. Now I resized them to make it a little bit bigger. Why? Because I had to import an animation in here, and I imported it from this health asset. So like you'll see, like there's all these different health assets, and I used, I believe, this one right here, and I cut it off, and then I did some stuff. And if I go to disappearing, you'll notice that here's my different frames, and they each just have a different picture. Now I could have finished the rest of them. This one took a lot more work to do, but it allowed me to make a picture and use that picture for an animation. Now, something that you can do is for your object is, you know, do something very similar, use an image as a background. But whatever, I feel like if you want to use an animation, that's fine. That allows you to do some nice, you know, looking health bars, and you just have to edit where the health bar is. You know, right here it's at 50%, so this would be like at a health of 50. The problem with doing this method other than that is you have to go through every single value that you want to change your health bar for, right? And say force the frame to whatever. So you'd have to do right click, animation, change animation frame, and that's how you would set an animation, right? So I'd have to say change it to frame 0. I'd click OK, and you notice I now have forced the animation to frame 0, right? So once again, you would say, okay, this object, let's go to alternate variable. Let's look at its health, and we'll say when its health is equal to 50 now, right? Let's put this down below it. When its health is at 50, let's change its animation frame to animation frame 5 now, right? Because I did 4, then 5, yeah. So let's go back and let's see if I go to animation 5, but I don't have an animation 5, so I'd have to go here, go to disappearing. I guess I do have an animation 5. Oh, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it has to be 5. So let's copy this, let's paste it, and then let's delete it out or something. Let's fill it in. And do you see what I'm having to do here? Like, this is a lot of extra work, but this is what I had to do to prepare for this one, which was fantastic. Just delete it. There we go. Now it looks different from the one in front of it, right? Yeah. Who cares about that for now? Now let's see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, and you can even see a little difference between them. You get the idea. You just have to go in and change the frame count, right? And so also I just learned while doing this video that a frame of 0 for me was frame 1. So you can go back and change the name of those frames if you want. Whatever, I'm getting too in depth now. But I hope this video shows you different ways of doing a health bar. I know it's a lot. I know it seems like a lot. So what I would do if I was you is I would say I want a vertical health bar, or I want a horizontal health bar, or I want to use an animation. Awesome, right? Do I want it to blend, or do I want it to use a very specific color at a very specific health. Okay, I want it to blend, then I'm going to use the blending code, which is this one. Oh no, I don't want to use a blending code. I want it to set it to green, yellow, or red based off its health. Or I wanted to set it to a certain color based off of its health value. I would use this code. Or, nope, I want it to be these specific pictures at these specific health values. Then I'm going to use these types of coding. And that should be enough just to start your game. And I know there are other ways. This is just my quick way of doing it. I hope this video is useful for you. You could always, by the way, go back to itch.io and type in health bars. And you could even type in animations. And they'll give you different health bars that you can use, right? And some of them are free, some of them are paid, right? These would be your animations, right? You get the idea. There's so many resources out there for you to use. Pick whichever one works for you. So yeah, I hope this video finds you well. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's useful for you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, comment on it if you need any help on anything else in the future. Let me know. I'm trying to make as many videos as possible for you all. And that's it. Take care.